Welcome, everybody, to today's special edition of the Mid-Atlantic Ocean Data Portal's How Tuesday webinar series. I'm Carl Villacova, the project manager for the portal and communications director for Monmouth University's Urban Coast Institute, which is located in West Long Branch, about a mile from the beach on the Jersey Shore. We typically focus these sessions on data and tool upgrades on the portal, but today we're going to mix it up and highlight two state tools in our region serving coastal and ocean data, and they are the New York State Geographic Information Gateway and Virginia's Coastal Gems. In a few minutes, you'll get tips and demos of these tools by Nick Meade, the GEMS project manager and GIS coordinator for the Virginia Coastal Zone Management Program, and Jeff Herter, the Gateway project manager and Coastal Resource Specialist for the New York Department of State Office of Planning, Development, and Community Infrastructure. The timing is good for this webinar since Jeff and his team recently unveiled a new and improved version of the Gateway with lots of functional upgrades and expanded data holdings. Some elements of the redesign that are either complete or underway include a new map viewer, story maps, and new informational pages and a new homepage, with more planned in the months ahead. At the same time, Coastal GEMS, which stands for Geospatial and Educational Mapping System, has come a long way since its launch about 15 years ago, and it's now on its fourth version. These are two of the best sites of their kind in the country, and they're both closely aligned with the portal. Both have contributed important data to the portal and vice versa over the years. And on a personal note, I'll add that Nick and Jeff have been two of the best idea people and state voices advising us on how to make the portal better. So we do always appreciate their insights. An open Q&A session will be held following the presentations. At that time, you can either type your question into the chat or use the raise hand function. And when I call on you, you can turn on your camera if you wish and ask your question. You are also welcome to add your questions to the chat at any time during this webinar. And if it's something simple enough, Nick or Jeff may just answer in the chat. So finally, we ask that our audience keep yourselves muted during the presentations. The session is being recorded and will be posted on our webinars page and blog over the next day or two. And with that, I will turn it over to Nick to get us started.
All right. Thanks so much, Carl. Let me share my screen here. Thanks for those kind words and the introduction and for organizing this whole thing. I am just going to start with a few slides to give you a little quick intro to who we are, who the Virginia Coastal Zone Management Program is, and why we decided to create this mapping portal, Coastal Gems. So now also, I was going to mention while we were doing kind of a dry run for this webinar last week, Jeff and Carl and I were talking about the differences between this portal and the Marco portal and the New York Gateway, and I think it really comes down to kind of scale, both the geographic coverage and a number of layers. So Coastal Gems is definitely the smaller portal, but like Carl mentioned, we've been around for a while. So just to get us started here, I just wanted to give this quick intro to the program. So the Virginia CZM program is part of the National Coastal Zone Management Program. And all these coastal states that are part of the program have this partnership with the federal government through NOAA to help manage the coastal zones of their state. These areas that are usually really ecologically diverse, but also where most of the people live. So a lot of planning and management that needs to happen. And these state programs, they have to follow basic requirements to be able to be eligible for funding, but they are able to design programs that best fit the unique needs and challenges of their coastal zone. So in Virginia, we have what's called a networked program. We have a relatively small actual program staff, but we are partnered with all of these other state agencies and local governments to help administer all the laws and regulations to protect our coastal zone. So we're up to 7 full-time staff now. We had only 6 for decades, but thanks to some BIL capacity funding, we're up to 7 full-time staff now. We're guided by a coastal policy team that represents our key partners in state agencies and the 8 coastal planning district commissions. We receive about $3 million annually from NOAA, and most of that is administered to those state agencies and planning district commissions, local governments, even some nonprofits to implement our program. This is just geographically, this is the coastal zone of Virginia, and it is essentially just all of the localities that touch on tidal waters and goes all the way out to the 3-mile territorial sea boundary. The program has 10 goals that deal with coastal resource protection and coastal resource sustainable use and coastal management coordination. And while all of those have, mapping kind of fits into all of those, it is really spelled out in those coastal management coordination goals. And the program, so it has always, since its inception, been interested in compiling map data for use by our partnering agencies, for the planners and the decision makers to have this data at hand. So back in the 80s, that was sold paper maps, the Virginia Rivers Inventory. And then in the 90s, the EcoMap system was sort of the first electronic mapping system and required specialized workstations and staff, and was eventually canned just due to the cost of it to keep going. But fast forward to 2007, when online mapping applications were, becoming a feasible way to share data, we created Coastal Gems, and the idea was to compile both water and land-based natural resource data, that blue and green infrastructure, along with conservation planning tools and contextual data, and also fact sheets and links, so we kind of a user-friendly metadata, so that this could really be a platform that anybody at any level, from general public up to planners, could use and see all this data that was available. And the data that's on here is some of it are layers that are updated regularly, multiple times a year. Some of them are just one-time projects, maybe something that the CZM program might have funded, and kind of everything in between. So I'll jump over to the actual mapping application, and I'm going to give you a demo of not everything. I just picked a few of the newer features of this version 4, which we released a few years ago now. This is just a slide with some call outs to show you what the main tools are. So let me get out of here, jump over to this tab. So this is the landing page, which is a new thing with version 4 of Coastal Gems. So here you can, there's 3 big buttons here to launch the mapping application, or explore story maps, or browse the data library. I'll jump into the application in a second, but story maps, the program's been creating story maps since before version 4 of Coastal Gems, but this was nice to finally have a place where we could house them all in one place. This growing collection of story maps. So please go and check these out and scroll through them. And the data library was also new for version 4. So this is just a way to explore the data outside of the map. These categories here are the same categories that the data is organized into in the mapping application. You can click here to see the layers within each category. And there's a really short abstract for each layer, just a sentence or two, or you can click here to view that full fact sheet. And sorry, this menu is in the way. Let me move this, the Zoom menu. So you can also, jump straight to the data source. So for this Baylor ground layer, that's the VMRC Chesapeake Bay map. Close some stuff here. Or you can click to view the data in the map. So what this will do, if you click on any of these layers in the data library, this will launch the mapping application with the data loaded. So here the Baylor grounds are loaded here, already in the map at the extent of that layer. So that's pretty cool. Let me close that and go back here. And before I jump in and launch the mapping application, I just want to also show here, we do use this landing page to promote things or put stuff up. So we've got this save the date here for our Virginia Coastal Partners workshop. It's in person, so save that date if you're interested. Just some other stuff here. This is from our last Coastal Partners workshop. A cool Padlet with all the recorded presentations and stuff. So yeah, let me launch this mapping application. So you see when it first launches, there's this little disclaimer. You can click through. You see also down here in the bottom right, it says click to see where you left off, the layer visibility from where you left off. So if you click that, it'll actually remembers the data that you had pulled up and the extent you were at the last time you used the application. So here we pulled up these Baylor grounds just now and I closed it and here they are again. So that's a pretty cool tip to remember if you accidentally close the application or if you just, close it on purpose and want to pick back up where you left off. All right, so let's see. I think the first thing that I wanted to show you, again, now this over here, is one of the newer features of Coastal Gems version 4 is the ability to really dig into the attribute data that's behind the spatial data. So even in the older versions, you were able to click on a feature in the map like this and identify on it and see these attributes here. But in this newer version, there's also you can actually look at the attribute table. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can see there's always this arrow down here at the bottom that will pop it open. The attribute data. You can also there's a little these three little dots next to each layer. You can say view in attribute table and it'll pop up that same thing, but it's always down here. I'll give it a second to load. While it's loading, I'll also point out these layers here where they say, all right, well, maybe I will just stop clicking and talk, but those layers do, those little three dots, the other option there will say enable pop-up or disable pop-up. So if you're trying to click on a feature and it just says searching or it doesn't seem like it's showing anything there, you might have to go and click on these three dots here and say enable pop-up. There it is right there. So I'm still waiting here for this attributes to pop up, and hopefully once they pop up, they'll be a little bit faster for me to continue the demo here, but I'm gonna just give it a second. It seems like things are happening. But while that's the other two things I'm gonna share with you today after these attributes, here we go, is how to add data to the map and how to share the map. But now that these are popped up, you can see it defaults to this right here, filter by map extent. So right now we're only seeing the attributes for the features that are actually on the map right here. So you can uncheck that and it'll load the whole attribute table for the whole data set. I won't do that right now since we're already going kind of slow, it seems, but you can see I just zoomed in and it says 166 features here. And I think hopefully this will update in a second, and you'll see now it's only 106 because I just zoomed in. So And if you click on these, it'll highlight them on the map, so you can see highlighting some things here on the map. When you click on them, you're also able to filter these. So I think, if you do any kind of mapping at all, this won't seem really intimidating, but to other folks, it's really, pretty easy. You can do things like, I could say, size is, at least 100 acres, and it'll filter the attributes by that and show you just those on the map. And there you go. So now we've only got 52 features showing that fit that filter. You can clear selection, clear the filter, and that's basically a good primer on this attributes. You can move this around and take up as much screen real estate as you want with that. And it's all, like I said, it's always down there. You can just click that arrow to get in or out. So the next thing that I wanted to show you, one of the other new features of Coastal Gems version 4 is how to add new data. That's right here, this button up here. This one right here is the base map gallery, by the way. We've got various years of the Virginia base mapping program imagery, as well as this most recent imagery service, or just some of these ESRI ones. I like this dark gray one for making layers kind of pop. But back to adding data. So you can search for data on ArcGIS Online, or you can add data from a web service. So I think I got this, found this one yesterday. Cool trails map service from USGS. So if I just copy this URL here and paste it in here and say add, and we'll give that a second. It might, take it, I don't know, hopefully not too many seconds to load, but we'll see. Things don't seem to be going super fast. There we go. So it has now added that layer. So you can now see that layer here at the top of the layer list. And it's this cool trails layer. So, this trail right here is the Virginia Capitol Trail, bike trail that goes from Richmond all the way to Jamestown. So that's one way you can add data from a map service. You can also add data from a file. So you can, CSV, KML, that's those Google map files, or even a zipped up shape file. So I downloaded this one from the portal yesterday, the major canyons. So if I click on that, should see those pop up here offshore. Just a second, it's still adding, but and when you see them pop up here, they'll also pop up in the layer list here. So you can add data, there they are, from your own computer, or from the web, or from ArcGIS Online. And so the final thing that I wanted to share with you, which is another new feature of version 4, is how to share a map. So, we do have these markup tools that you can, draw and put letters on the map, and markers and things like that, as well as the print export functions. But the one I want to talk about of how to share here is this one on the far right, this share this map. So what this does is it creates a link to the actual map that you are working on. And the major tip I want to give here is you want to make sure that it's checked current map extent. So you want to share this map of this extent, but also you want to make sure we check remember layer visibility to make sure it gets these layers from the map. So then that generates this link, and you can send that to somebody. I'd open a new window here. it should just pop the application right back up. Still have the disclaimer, but with all those layers loaded. I guess it doesn't, it goes to the default base map, not that dark gray that I had on, but you can see all the same layers here. So you're able to make and share a map link with folks that you're working with. And with that, I think I'll leave it there. And I think we're going to have a Q&A session after Jeff is done. So thanks, Carl.
Thank you for that, Nick. And while Jeff is loading up, I did get one simple question, I think, in the chat, which was, what's the back end for Coastal Gems? Was it ArcGIS Hub?
Yeah, the landing page that you saw on all those landing pages are all ArcGIS Hub.
All right. So everybody, while Jeff is loading, and you feel free to begin posting questions in the chat now if you'd like, or you can hold them till the end. Thanks, Jeff. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
I think we're a go. So good afternoon, folks. And Carl, thanks for echoing what Nick said. Thanks for those kind words up front. I think that the ideas flow in both directions. And I think I just saw some things that Nick showed that we're going to borrow as we're developing the gateway further out. I also want to, you kind of highlighted our two state atlases or portals. And I do want to highlight an early inspiration for me, which is and if folks want to check it out, it's the Oregon Coastal Atlas that Tanya Haddad is responsible for, project manages, and she's brilliant, and a lot of the ideas that I got, came from her. So I did want to mention that. I'll start with a really brief, I don't want to bore folks with history lessons, but the Geographic Information Gateway got its start in a law in New York State that was passed in 2006. So in that law, Ocean and Great Lakes Ecosystem Conservation Law, if you're inspired, ECL Article 14. But it called, a requirement in that called for the creation of an ocean and coastal atlas for the to provide information to people and decision makers. So kind of gave us a broad spectrum of users to work from, and that's kind of where we start. Is who are we developing this for? Who would use it? And the initial launch of what was the precursor to the gateway, which was the Ocean and Great Lakes Atlas, was in July of 2008. And then there was kind of a long period where it kind of stayed at that level, and it really didn't meet the spirit of law. We had about 200 data sets out there that were related to Ocean and Great Lakes, but they weren't really for the people. It was more for GIS professionals. It was difficult to use, and it was basically just an online mapping application. And then we got some funds to overhaul and re-release and rebrand as the Geographic Information Gateway in September of 2015. And that did a little bit more at meeting the requirements of the Act, and that it was open to the public. We provided a mapper that was pretty easy to use, pretty easy to search. We'd like to use the, I call it the Bill and Bonnie test, which they're my parents who are in their late 80s. And if they can use a mapping interface or a portal or a website without too much explanation, then we're kind of hitting our target there. So version was pretty good, but there were limitations to that website, and one of them was that we could only deliver information through web map services. For those of you who are GIS folks in the audience, there are different types of web services that provide information, and what web map services allow you to pull in and look at the map and query the map, but they don't allow much else. And what we were really looking for was web feature services and web application services, and those were not available with the platform that we were using. So fast forward to this past spring, we scrounged some more funds up to redevelopment, and the platform that we are now on is the same as Nick's on the Virginia Coastal Gems. So we are on ArcGIS Hub, and that was launched on Earth Day of this year. And we now have a little over 800 data sets that are available on the Gateway's cloud server, which is Esri's cloud server, ArcGIS Online, or AGOL. And what we're looking at here is the landing page for the Gateway. And right up front, we wanted to provide a means for search for folks to get to what they're looking for. Provide a search box. So you can type in that search window. I'm just going to move the just move it a little bit. And so right up front, we can type in here and get to the data catalog. There are a number of ways that are duplicative of ways of getting to the same thing. So we have cards down here that will take you to the data catalog where you can search for data, same as the home page. And then we have a couple of different viewers. And I'm not going to go too much into our viewers because what Nick showed you is basically what we've got here on the Gateway for viewers.
Hey, Jeff, if I can just stop you for a sec.
Sure.
Because it seems like what you're describing is not necessarily what I'm seeing on screen right now, which is just like a map of the counties in New York.
So I moved to,
So I'm not sure if you have
change. Yes, let me switch the screen that I'm using. My apologies. I was just moving. I moved the window that I had it on over so that I was facing the camera when I was talking to folks. So let me go back. So this is the home page. And
Yep, we see the homepage now.
great. And here's the search box that I was talking about. So you can get to, and multiple ways of getting to the same place. So the data catalog you can explore by clicking this card. There's also up on the navigation bar, explore data will take you to the same place. And it's, again, the search bar here, and then a couple of different viewers, as I was mentioning before. This this viewer is our kind of our main map viewer, and you can add in and manipulate the 800 data sets here, as well as get to the ArcGIS online catalog, like Nick showed you on the gems. And we also have a mapping application that meets, at least for New York, a requirement to provide the a coastal atlas for our program. And this is showing both our coastal zone, and again, this is a card. I will take you to the viewer in a minute here. We also break down the data by categories. So if you kind of know what you're interested in general, but you're not sure specifically, you can use those categories to dive in. And we also have our data separated out by the program managers here at Office of Planning and Development, Community Infrastructure. We do have an about page that tells folks a little bit about the gateway. This is a view of the original, the one that was replaced in April, the original gateway. And we talk a little bit about our office and working with our funders, the same office in NOAA that funds Nick's coastal program. And then we talk a little bit about our programs within our office here. Atlantic Ocean Program, Brownfield Revitalization, Climate Change and Resilience, Great Lakes, Actual Wildfire Revitalization. And let's get view results for data. Dive in is a way to get a little bit more information about our programs in the Atlantic Ocean. And each of our programs have a short little synopsis about that program and what they do. Climate change and resilience. Excuse me. And yeah, waterfront revitalization. So as you can see, there are cards here that will take us to our story maps. And we had story maps in the last iteration of Gateway, but they've been all updated, revised, and reformatted in the new Esri format. So this is a story on offshore canyons, offshore New York. And all of the stories that we have developed for the Gateway follow a similar arc. We have a step that talks about why you as a New Yorker should care about this topic, issue, information, and then what makes it special. And another dive further into details on the topic or issue. And then the last step is always about what we in the Department of State and our partners are doing with regard to this issue. So we step through and we've got a number of different formats and media that we include in our stories. We have interactive maps that you can expand. You can zoom in and query the map. And we have posters that you can expand, infographics, more interactive maps, and these help folks make the connection between why the canyons offshore New York are important to them in on the coast. And so we're showing that a important recreational fishery, summer flounder, spends a big chunk of its time out at the continental shelf break in the canyons. But then they can also click to change the season and see that in the summer and fall, they are then in where they are able to fish for them and catch them. So we're just making the connection between the folks on shore, offshore. Everyone loves charismatic megafauna and may not realize that we have them offshore New York. So we use the maps to show folks that they're out there. For birders in New York, we can show that certain seabirds that they wouldn't see normally spend a chunk of their time along the canyon edge, and then in around coastal waters where they can add it to their bird love list. Long line fishermen, we show that there's commercial use of the canyon areas, and then even recreational boaters. And this data comes from the Northeast Ocean Data Portal. So we're ingesting that into the Gateway. We also ingest information in from, as Carl said, we have close ties with the Mid-Atlantic Ocean Data Portal. And so we ingest some of their information and make it available. And then we talk about what makes these areas unique. Now, I'm just kind of cruising through these. If you're interested, you can on your own pop into these and check out these stories. We also have another media format is so these are actual dive locations. Okeanos Explorer, Noah's ship does research exploration, and can step through the slides of stills that we captured from that dive site. And we have a video clip from YouTube that takes you through some of the dive. And you can hear the scientists in the background getting excited about what they're seeing. And then the last step, as I mentioned, is what we're doing in New York and what our partners are doing. So that's kind of a quick intro to the stories and story maps. And we have story maps on offshore renewable energy, on living shorelines, our coastal risk areas that we've developed, shellfish and seagrass. And we have a couple other stories that are in development. Relatively new page for the Gateway is our Engage page. So it's taking some of the aspects of the last iteration of Gateway and putting it on there. So latest conditions were found on the other Gateway, but it was in an odd place. So it's now consolidated. And if you click on this, this is targeted more for the general public. They're looking to go to the beach. They can view current conditions. This takes a user away from the Gateway into, let's see if this one has. And then some of these will take you to a live stream of the beach. So users can check out whether it's a good day. If they're surfers, they check that out. These are all pass-throughs, take you to monitoring sites, ports, and tide predictions. This is brand new, is the ability to submit a story that you about a map or something that you've developed, or an application that you've developed using data from the Gateway. So we give some guidance on what we're looking for in that story and submission. This is just a placeholder that I put in about the coastal atlas that I mentioned earlier. And it's also a way to get to our mobile applications. So we have a recreation information tracker, or Reckitt New York, that allows you to put it on a mobile device and upload pictures and a brief story about your experience recreating in Europe. And it was our way of trying to getting a handle on what folks are doing, how they're using. Initially, it started as capturing offshore user stories, because we really didn't have a handle on what folks were doing offshore. But as we were developing it, said there's no reason why we can't just accept inputs from anywhere in New York. So we've got a few submissions here. We'll pop up momentarily. So on the left, you have like a little card of the submission, and you can expand those. The map takes you in, and you can see the little description, picture, the location in the map. The list, and that's right. And you go to post your own story you'd like to update and add to our map. And then our last panel on this page right now is a dashboard that tells you, lets you know how many data sets are available on our cloud, on our gateway cloud server, folks that we're partnering with, resources, and then it lists the top 5 most viewed data sets on the gateway. This is a new page as well, partners of the gateway, program resources. It lists the different organizations that we've worked with on the gateway. And then resources, and this is an area where you can get to reports and acts that are not necessarily geospatial data, so brownfield redevelopment. So these are all information and resource sections, tools. And then we have a page for folks to leave feedback. Send us a little rating, give us some feedback on what you feel about the site. And if there's an issue when you're working with the site, then you can mention that as well. I'm doing pretty good. So I'll take us to the Coastal Atlas. Since it's got some data sets already loaded, both mappers load with this splash page that gives some tips on how to use the application. And if you're very familiar with the application, used it plenty of times, then you click this check mark and it goes away. So for New York State, we have a consistency review program that reviews any federal projects, whether they're direct built or receiving funds or giving funds from a federal agency to develop or do work in our coastal area. And so any of those projects have to be consistent with the state's 44 coastal policies. And each of these data sets that are loaded in this mapper, the landward coastal area boundary, so that's this blue, right, the blue line. Any project that occurs when has to be consistent with all 44 coastal policies. Identify, and then they have to, our reviewers have to consider whether the project lies within a significant coastal fish and wildlife habitat, whether it's within a scenic areas of statewide significance. These are designated areas. And federal lands, Indian territories. So this is the Coastal Atlas, and it's kind of a application that's targeted directly to the folks in our consistency review unit, but also to coastal contractors and coastal homeowners, landowners, whoever the folks are that would apply for permits to do shoreline management work, putting a dock or a bulkhead, those kind of projects. So they can come in here, take a look at the atlas and determine whether their project is within the coastal area and whether they need to go through our consistency review. Some of the things that are coming up for the gateway, we've got, go back to the home page, and then I'm actually going to dial in. So these are just some of our programs. There are a couple of programs that we don't have listed here. Biggest one that's glaring, and I was just talking about, is our consistency review program. So that is up and coming. It will get a similar treatment with develop a paragraph describing what the program does, and then provide some stories about our coastal consistency program. Some of the new stories that are coming up, we are developing so in Eastern Lake Ontario, NOAA is very close to designating a new National Marine Sanctuary for the eastern portion of Lake Ontario. And we are 75% done with a story map that talks about eastern half of Lake Ontario and the reason for designation, which is the number of historic shipwrecks and plane wrecks that have occurred in the eastern half of the country. So that story is really shaping up nicely, and we should have that released by the end of October. We also have a story that goes with our local and regional planning activities. It talks about the development I mentioned in the Coastal Atlas, that we have scenic areas of statewide significance. So we've developed a story that talks about those scenic areas and how we go about designating those. I'm excited to release those. We are overhauling our map viewer using a different Esri program. Experience Builder will allow us to customize and modify this map a little to make it a little more user-friendly. And we are also working on, let me see if I can pull this on. Give you a little preview. We're working on a kid-friendly map gateway. It's called Kids Map Venture. That will be posted on the Engage page. So on that community page will be a button that will take you to Kids Map Venture, targeting 3rd grade to 6th grade kids. And we've been working with the state ed and with New York State Museum folks and with our historic preservation office to develop this page and to provide some applications that would support the state's standards and curriculums. So we're pretty excited about that, moving forward with that. And with that, I think I'll wrap it up and turn it back to Carl.
Thank you for that, Jeff. And I am going to pin you guys so that we can see you a little bigger as we start to take questions. Okay, I welcome anybody to type questions into the chat or just raise your hand if you'd like to ask them verbally. And maybe in the meantime, I'll pose one to get the action going. So I'm curious whether through analytics or anecdotally, if you have a good sense of what data your users are hitting most, and maybe how they're using it, or if it's indicative of any specific user groups that tend to use your sites most. I know, Jeff, you showed quickly a kind of a top layers, and wasn't sure what time periods that was tracking for. And anyway, I'll stop there.
Sure, I can go first. So the that dashboard that we have on the Engage page, so that's like the most recent. So that's dynamic and updates with the top 5. And right now, today, at this point in time, we're looking at the the boundary for the Long Island Sound Coastal Management Program, scenic areas of statewide significance, significant coastal fish and wildlife habitats. The New York Geographic Location Description, which is that's a NOAA term, right, for a state's area that they would like to have review authority over. And then the land coastal area boundaries. So those top 5 are all pretty much related to the coastal atlas. And so that says to me that marine contractors and our consistency unit, our own consistency unit, and coastal homeowners are contributing to that being the top 5. We also do Google metrics, and so we keep tabs on how many hits, how many visits are hitting the gateway, and kind of the type of user and where they're coming from geographically. So.
On coastal gems, we do use analytics. We don't have it set up to be able to see individual layers that are hit, but I can tell you just from data requests, what layer is requested the most that's on coastal gems is there's a layer called coastal avian protection zones that is part of a regulation in Virginia for developing small wind energy projects on the land, and it's basically areas that are sensitive to various types of birds, and there's different levels of environmental review for the different zones, and so that's because it's in a part of a regulation, and coastal gems is spelled out in the regulation as being where you go to look at that data. That one gets we get a lot of requests for that data from a lot of contractors and wind developers.
Great. We have a question from John Kiriawa here, where Jeff mentioned learning and benefiting from Oregon's GIS work and from Tanya. So he says, I'm just curious if there's been strategic collaborations among mid-Atlantic states on geospatial tools. So maybe you guys can talk about if there have been many collaborations, how much you guys talk between states.
Yeah, so I think the biggest collaboration is the Mid-Atlantic Ocean Data Portal. I don't know. So a couple of the other Mid-Atlantic states, I think one for sure has a online data portal. I don't know that some of the others have much of a presence. So there wouldn't be too much collaboration. I'm fully open if they decide, if those states that don't have a big footprint when it comes to geospatial services on the web, if they decided that they wanted to go all in, fully available to work with them and talk with them and help them build that program out. There's not too much, I mean, other than, there isn't a formal group. To meet John's question, I don't know that there's a formal group. There used to be a portal, geographic portal network or marine portal network that NOAA ran. I think Dave Stein kind of headed that up, and yeah, so but that has that's kind of went away. That kind of faded in the background and wasn't used that much. So I don't know, maybe it's time to reinstitute something similar to that.
Yeah, sounds good. And I like what you said. I think that Marco is really the way that we all talk to each other nowadays. And I don't have a lot to I guess our neighbors to the north and south, like North Carolina, I played some like in a small advisory role when they were developing their coastal atlas. Maryland, I don't know if Maryland has a coastal atlas, but we did, we have a data synthesis for ecological value that we use for conservation targeting, and we kind of worked with them as they were developing something similar, so that we could have something that kind of went across the state boundary.
Yeah, and I would say between the three of us and all the states, really, the OMDT has been, I think, a great way for all of the states to collaborate on data projects and ideas. So for those who don't know, Marco has a work group called the Ocean Mapping and Data Tool team, and that is a collaboration of all of the 5 states and various federal partners who are interested in participating. And we meet quarterly. There's quite a few members, and that team gives direction to the portal enterprise as a whole, including our work plan, our engagement. And I think there's been so many good examples, let's say artificial reefs, the portal's artificial reefs layer, where we're coming to you, the states, every year and asking you to take a look at what we have, and get us the newest, best data, so that we're making sure that that layer, which is always a top 3, top 5 most hit on our site, is full and up to date. And I think those conversations are good in terms of all of you guys hearing what everybody else is doing and taking some direction from that. And certainly, we do from the portal all of the state trainings that we've done going up and down the coast throughout the years. As much as we're teaching the state agencies how to use the portal, we learn so much just by the questions we get, by watching where people get stuck on things, by hearing what data layers or tool improvements we can make to help people use the portal more often. So I think we've slowed down on that a bit because of COVID, but now might be a good time to bring those back. And we have a question from Supriya. Are these resources wrapped into your state's geospatial data portal or infrastructure for easy searching, or a way for state users to find them? Do you collaborate with the state IT GIO as you are making updates or building these tools?
Yeah, great question, Priya. Thank you. Yes and no. So the state of New York has a what they call the New York State GIS Clearinghouse, and the clearinghouse just underwent an overhaul and was released as an ArcGIS Hub application as well. So we just went through an exercise of standardizing the names and the categories of the data that they were grabbing from the gateway and that we were grabbing from the clearinghouse. Our GIO, Liz DiGeronimo, is actually a very close, old and dear friend of mine. So I'm pretty close with our state geographic information officer. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a interesting division there, because I've always said that the clearinghouse serves its customers are GIS professionals. So they're providing data to the folks in the state and to contractors around the state that use GIS in a very robust way. And I've always said that our customers are the general public and the elected decision makers. That seems to be blurring a little bit, that difference. Not that we've always been serving our data so that GIS professionals could use it, but the clearinghouse is now kind of looking at becoming a more broad audience on who they're serving as well.
Yeah, in Virginia, we have the Virginia Geographic Information Network, VGIN, and they have a clearinghouse, the Virginia GIS clearinghouse, and Coastal Gems is on there. You can search for it from the main page, or you can find it under the there's a section for state geo portals. So it's on there.
Well, thank you again, Jeff, Nick, and to all the people who joined us today. It is 1:02, so we'll have to cut it off here. But that was a great, really informative webinar, and it will be posted, a recording will, on the webinars page on the portal and on our news page, probably within the next 24 hours. So keep an eye out for that. And again, thanks for joining and for the great presentations.
And thanks for inviting us, Nick, and thanks for all of you folks taking the time to spend your lunch with us.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everybody.